Let's do the Eric Weinstein. Is that one funny? Where has he been? He's got to be busy. I mean, Peter Thiel. Is he still working for Peter Thiel? He's got to be very excited.
He was the brother. I always get them confused. He's maybe the more sane Weinstein. That's correct?
I mean, that's very difficult to say.
Okay, but I know...
This is the one who thought that he invented or had discovered some new physics.
And you have to go on his Discord in order to find it because he's not going to put it through peer review.
He's also the guy that said that the vaccine has to be good for the COVID vaccine because Israel gave it to their population. And by definition, whatever Israel does is a moral choice.
Well, that was better reasoning than his brothers, who was just an anti-vax psycho.
That's what I'm saying. The more sane one.
I am getting so much abuse out there from people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with. And in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies or, yeah. Well, you don't get any someone coming around and saying, "Oh, I should have done this."
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity.
Pause it for a second. Now, I just want to be clear here. He is saying that he's getting grief from his friends on the right because he wasn't endorsing Trump, and Rubin doesn't fully understand what he's saying. And it's hard because he's trying so gently, and he's mad that he's not being embraced by his new right-wing friends in some way.
So when he said this, I was like, oh, is he going to do a Lincoln Project thing and criticize how the Republicans just kowtow to Trump? No, it's just about his personal
of course,
anger.
It's completely personal.
And delusions of grandeur.
Go back. Oh, yeah. These guys, I can only imagine what the Weinstein brothers' mom was like.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I think she must have, like, when these guys came home, like, from school and, like, oh, my God, look at you. You came back, like, oh, did you just take a poopy? Well, yes, you did that so well for a 14-year-old.
Oh,
good for you. And you wiped yourself. I mean, these guys really.
Narcissism is probably hereditary, is what we're discovering.
Maybe some environmental sort of leak.
Or that.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way.
Fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call?
Who are you?
Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies.
Pause it for a second. This is so fantastic. Like, he's what Weinstein's saying. Go back to the beginning of this clip too. What Weinstein's saying is he's saying they're mad at me for not endorsing, but nobody came to solicit my endorsement because I'm Eric Weinstein. Why didn't anybody come and say, President Trump didn't call me. The
dinners.
Trump children didn't call. I didn't get invited to Mar-a-Lago, or maybe he did, but I didn't. Even if I went to Mar-a-Lago, I didn't get invited.
That'd be funny if Russell Brand got the invite and he didn't.
And then Dave Rubin, of course, whose brain is almost like you can almost not measure his brain waves. They're so small. And so almost non-existent, thinks that Eric is asking for an apology. And
but I like how under all of it, Eric doesn't question at all that he might not matter that much.
Well, he does say on some level, like, nobody cared about my endorsement.
Begs the question of why should they?
Right, but that's the second part of it. He can't go there.
My new physics explains it all, but you need to be a paying member of my Discord to find out. But here's Rubin trying to be all salty, like, how this game is played. And in fact, then Weinstein's like, I'm not talking about that game. All right, but go ahead.
It's out there. Yeah. From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with. And in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never, not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies or, Well, you don't get any, someone coming around and saying, oh, I should have done this.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity. If my endorsement mattered, like when they called Bobby said, I have things that I want. Yeah. I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about science? To hear Chris Rufo go off about, we're going to stick it to the Ivies. I'm like, well, I understand getting rid of the woke. I understand getting rid of the DEI. I understand all these things. You're going to destroy the crown jewels of American science? Who are you? Exactly. My claim is you have.
Do you think there's much left there at the universities?
Oh
at the
my
Ivy
God,
Leagues?
go to a seminar. And, look, I go in economics, I go in mathematics, I go in physics, and I go in biology. Yes. There's so much great stuff happening in universities. I'm a huge critic of American universities, but the current group of people doesn't know anything about what they're destroying.
Pause it. Was this not predictable? We have literally 40, 50 years of Republican assaults on universities. Like, way before woke or DEI, those terms were ever invented. Republicans have been trying to attack universities and education as a fundamental pillar of their project since the 1960s, early 70s.
William F. Buckley wrote a book that put him on the public spotlight called God and Man at Yale.
I mean, this has been ongoing, and to be like, I'm really surprised.
Well, also, he's kind of doing the half thing that Sam Harris has been doing, where Sam Harris has been kind of excommunicated from the right because he thinks that Trump is a lunatic and he was pro-COVID vaccine, which, like, I don't like Sam Harris.
Well, Sam Harris would say, I never was on the right. I just have an intense hatred of Muslims.
But they came up together as a part of the IDW, right? And so they're still buddies, I would guess. And Weinstein here is really saying, like, okay, well, I still supported Donald Trump, but no one came and asked for my endorsement. Like, I'm in Sam Harris no man's land now, but I did all the right things.
Name recognition between him versus Robert F. Kennedy, a little bit of a gap, I think.
Oh, do you think? Do you think that Bobby Kennedy was able to move more votes than Eric Weinstein? Huh. Interesting theory, Matt. But I'd need to see some evidence. And I guess you don't have any. Do you really think that, like, people, I mean, the Weinstein name? Oh, incidentally, he's not related to the one who is in prison. And the Kennedy name, I don't know, Matt.
Both political royalty.
It's an interesting theory. I'm going to have to ideate on that for a while, but continue.
The current group of people doesn't know anything about what they're destroying. The USAID stuff. That's a laundry list of weapons. We're trying to destabilize regimes. And now you can see that, we were trying to destabilize our own people, right? You have to ask, can I at least get a hearing with, like, what are these things? If you just go line items, as I said, you wouldn't want to do it after October 7th if you were auditing Israel. Say, why are we providing pagers, walkie-talkies, and tech support to Hezbollah? And because that's part of, like, the secret statecraft that we were up to. And the fact that it's cancerous, the fact that it's wasteful, the fact that it's immoral and illegal and all these sorts of things, those are very important facts. But you do have to realize that you can't just keep saying sunlight is the best disinfectant and vox populi vox dei.
Does this just get us back to
I
something
don't
that we
even
talked
know
about
if I understand what the point that he was trying to make.
Is he criticizing how they went after USAID?
It seems it's unclear to me. I think he's saying, like, we can't be that transparent. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't quite tell. I think he's trying to be, he's trying to walk some type of razor's edge. And
get attention out of it.
Oh, yes.
But USAID, this is from a DevEx, which I've never heard of before, devex.com. But USAID staff shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break, according to an email written by Erica Y. Carr, the acting executive secretary of USAID. So even if you want to get, which I think would be useful, getting to the sort of things he's talking about within USAID where it's weaponized against other countries, you wouldn't want to tell them to use burn bags and get rid of all the evidence.
And incidentally, patently illegal.
Right.
There is a Government Records Act. You are not allowed to do that because the U.S. The citizens have a right to have that information preserved, A, and B, maybe even made public to be determined by a judge, the judiciary, whether this stuff is meets the certain criteria. So
That's why we have expectations for the JFK documents, for instance. Go ahead.
Ed, well, you got it already.
No. You said you can't have a panther in the China shop that selectively knocks over the China. And you and I have been sort of, it was just like one of the most insightful things. We don't have to agree on it, but my claim is it's very dangerous to do what we're doing right now. And if we did it with more care, I'm directionally very much in favor of, when I was asked by Konstantin Kisin, what is Trump going to do? I said, he's going to renegotiate the world. This is the third founding of the Republic. We had Washington, we had Lincoln, and we have this.
And you're pleased about that. It's just you just want. So that's the interesting thing. I sense you're pleased about directionally every which way is going. You'd like some sort of more of a barrier or something.
Can we do this like adults? Do we have to signal to all our allies, you'll have no idea where we're going to be? We need to do a lot more assurance, explain to people why things are going on. I have no idea from outside whether this is as crazy as it looks, whether there's method to the madness. I understand some of it. I don't understand other. And the thing that I keep getting from so many people who do have connections, like I haven't been to Mar-a-Lago. You've been to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what's going on inside of this thing. So everybody who's outside of this,
it's very golden. It's very gaudy.
Not that. The issue is, what's the plan?
so.
If you can't pick up the phone to call your own friends who fought the same war.
Oh my God, this is all. I know what's fascinating about this is we're just hearing him complain that he's not getting the information he wants. He is not talking about, like, I thought when he said your allies, like, why isn't Trump communicating to other countries around the world? And I just realized that he's basically saying, how come no one's calling me and telling me what's going on?
I'm sitting here looking at my phone, waiting.
I'm waiting. I'm not invited to Mar-a-Lago. And then, of course, Ruben has to say, well, I've been. And it's very gold. No, my point is that no one's calling me and keeping me on the inside.
Isn't that kind of how, like, we see this in media, and it's just, I guess I'm naive about it. There's so many people that when they feel like they're not in the in crowd in some like political area of, whatever, they're not getting the guests they used to, they change their politics.
That's exactly what's going on here.
Like, all motivated by personal connections, and the idea that
it's always been that for him too.
I know, but like the idea that, but I guess there's so much running on the right. The idea that anyone would get into the media space except to have like conviction about something. Well,
what are you gonna do? Be one of these guys that says like, oh yes, I agree with all these other people, and that Trump is doing everything great. That's not how the Weinsteins are built. They're built different.
Yeah.
There's a quote here from it comes from a racist guy who used to be racist, who I think probably still is racist now, Richard Hanania, but one of his sources tweeted or gave this to him. I'm an NIH-funded biomedical scientist with conservative leanings. I know at least a dozen scientists, a small closeted minority, who voted for Trump largely because of frustrations with DEI and extreme wokeness that had permeated every aspect of the university. Each one of us deeply regrets their vote for Trump and are utterly ashamed of it. We are absolutely horrified at how mindlessly destructive this admin has been to the scientific institutions. They are single-handedly destroying the STEM dominance U.S. established over decades. Average Americans simply, this is their elitism coming through, average Americans simply do not realize that we are now on the verge of a precipitous decline in STEM. We all admit that the warnings about Trump MAGA were on target, and the thing we argue about now is whether the damage is even reversible. All the lefty overreach was annoying as hell, but the MAGA disdain for science is 100 times worse.
I would address these NIH-funded biomedical scientists that their predictive ability in terms of what's going to happen with experiments leaves a lot to be desired. Now, as scientists, they probably appreciate doing this experiment and getting all the data. The problem is, however, this is probably one experiment that you don't want to engage in because it very well may be irreversible. I mean, and here's the problem, is you have this stuff going on, and there's, look, I don't know how we would ever explicitly quantify how many people there are out there like these NIH scientists, like the IRS workers in St. Louis, like the people who are not going to get contracts, like the farmers, whatnot, who are regretting their vote, and of course the other people who sort of anticipated this would be a problem. But what Chuck Schumer is doing, he is making it absolutely impossible for Democrats to sort of nationalize the sentiment, to make it like a cohesive movement and make it very clear how Democrats are in opposition to this. And it will take a national movement if you have any hope, and I think the hope is minimal. If you have any hope of peeling off 1, 2, 3 members of Congress to make them somewhat reluctant to pause and be like, I'm not sure I should go along with this because I'm in a, purple district in New York, or I'm in a purple district in California, or I'm in a purple district in, whatever, Illinois, wherever it is. I don't know if I should do this because it's making it very hard for me. I think it's unlikely you're going to peel them off because of this threat from Elon Musk. But man, you got to try.
You got to try.
Because this stuff is not going to there's not going to be a cohesiveness that is going to impact every congressperson around the country unless it becomes a national message. You cannot rely on the different pockets around the country. And if you had spent the time in creating this narrative of what Elon Musk and what the Republicans and what Project 2025 was doing, in terms of basically shutting down parts of the government, you could easily transition to they're shutting down the government. All we got to drop is the parts. Because the reality is, too, that when a government shutdown happens, there are some things that still function. It is a complete failure of leadership by Chuck Schumer.
Yep.
And, it very well may be that everyone who believes it's a complete failure of leadership, which, sort of feels like now, the majority of the Democratic Party needs to do what Chuck Schumer has been incapable of doing in his entire career, which is, and Democrats generally are bad at doing, that is, take the loss and make it the basis of a victory in the future. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.